Welcome back. In this lesson we're going to be using the Content Aware tool, and first we're going to show you how to do it to clean up a photograph to get rid of unwanted details, and then we're going to show how to use the Content Aware Move and Extend tool to get a little creative with what you can do with this tool in your photos. So first I'm going to be starting with the photo that I want to clean up, and I already have a pretty nice photo here that doesn't have a whole lot of distraction, and we're looking for lots of negative space so that it just has a very clean look to it. And I've duplicated my background in case I make a mistake, and it's actually quite easy. So I'm just going to go around and look for little parts of the photo that I want to get rid of. And basically I want a cloudless sky, and you can spend a lot of time on it, but basically what you're going to do is just get the lasso tool, and you could go somewhere on here where there's some sand that has been kicked up, and I'm just going to lasso around it, and then I can go to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to choose Content Aware. So when I press OK, it actually just disappeared inside of there. It's like magic. And then I will keep working around the photo like this, selecting in little bits. Edit, Fill, Content Aware. And you can repeat this process as much as you want, as many times as you need. Now the other thing too, that's a helpful tip, it does work when you have kind of like solid type of backgrounds that aren't too busy to start with, and you can work it in sections. So one little tip though is sometimes if you choose a part of a photo that you want to fill up that's next to something that's contrasting, or you're trying to do a larger area, you can temporarily apply a layer mask to a larger area of the photograph. So for example, I'm just going to make the layer mask over here, and I'm going to choose the black, and I'm going to get myself a really nice big brush, and I'm going to paint away everything except for the sand. I'm going to uncheck that background layer so I can concentrate. So that way when I'm doing the Content Aware, I'll make it even bigger by doing the bracket tool. It's just going to focus on that one little area. So I'm just going to select on the sand. And once again, going back, now you want to make sure that you're selected on the image itself, now not on the layer mask, which is an easy mistake to make. And I'll just work it in sections. And once again, like magic, it's just disappearing. So doing it this way just is less likely to pull stuff from the other colors. And I just do Command D to deselect each time. Select, Edit, Fill, Content Aware, deselect. And as you can see, it's making it cleaner. You can spend as much time on this as you want. So one thing that may happen when you're close to other colors is that it mixes up the photo in the way that you don't want it. So just for an example, now in this case I don't really want to get rid of the people, but I want to show you, if I were to select them, and they're standing on the beach, but they're also in front of the water, when I go here and I fill it in, it's made the water line so that's messed up and it's not really what I wanted. So I'm going to do Command Z to undo. And in that case, it's really helpful to go ahead and isolate, just maybe do one section of the photo at a time and break it up into smaller chunks. So now I'm going to clean up the sky a little bit because I have these little tiny clouds that I want to get rid of. So this time I'm going to use the Content Aware Move and Extend tool to get a little creative with this photo of the boy on the beach with his little toy truck. And I'm going to just duplicate the background first, just to make sure, in case I make a mistake. And I'm going to go ahead and look for, there's a specific tool called the Content Aware Move tool, and I'm going to select that. And up here on the top bar, it says Move or Extend. So maybe I want this truck from this side to that side. And once again, you're better off choosing smaller pieces in a larger photo. And all I need to do is select it, and then I just push it over to another place in the photo and let go. And then I can do Command D to deselect. and I've moved my truck. Okay, and then once again, after I've moved the truck, I've decided that I don't want the stick to look just like this where it's bent. So I'm just go ahead and clean this one little section of the stick up by selecting it and then going ahead and filling it with the content aware. And then Command D to deselect. So the other thing that you can do is do the content aware extend tool as opposed to move. So instead of moving it, I want to make multiple copies of the truck. So once again, I'm selecting the content aware move tool, and I'm going to make just a very rough selection around my truck. And I can click and I hold down and I just push it to the new spot where I want it to be. And it's duplicated the truck. And if I push it one more time, I can make a third truck or a fourth truck. And then Command D to deselect. So have fun with these techniques. I'd like to see what you're doing, and go ahead and post them to the platform. Today we're going to be working with brushes and erodible tips. And we're going to just start with a photo of a texture of a painted blue wall, and we'll be just doing a little bit of drawing on top of the wall, sort of like if you're imitating graffiti. So first I just have the background layer, and one strategy I often use is just to create a brand new layer instead of drawing right smack on the picture. So I've just created myself a new layer, and then I'm going to go into the brushes over here, and over here on the top menu I have all of my choices, and over on the top right hand corner you see a little gear. And you can decide how you would like to display your brushes. So if you just want to see maybe just the names of it, or a thumbnail with what the actual brush tip might look like, you can kind of toggle back and forth to whatever your preference is. And you can also load extra brushes down here. So for example, if you wanted to add a set of brushes, you can just go ahead and do that, and it asks you to append. And you can do that, and it will add the new set down at the bottom of the list. So there's various different ones that you can use, and they have some, just for example, some airbrush tips over here. So if you're going to do some kind of painting, and if you notice, you can, play with just different ones to see what kind of effect you're going to get. So I'm just kind of cycling through and seeing which one that I want. Now up here on the top, like if you're using a tablet, you can choose to have it pressure sensitive. And so if I click down on that, you can either have it, be just a solid 100% opacity like this, and it also kind of affects the shape, or you can have it do a more natural feel to it as if it were a real brush. So if I go harder or softer on it, it kind of just imitates what it would really be like. And it's also affecting the size. So some of the other brushes that are fun to play with. And so by putting it on a new layer, it's just easy to dump it if you don't, if you want to get rid of that one layer. So I'm just pressing the trash can, I'm deleting that layer, and then I'm just starting on a new layer over here. So the other thing too that's a feature in Photoshop is that you can have erodible tips, which also imitates the feel of a real pencil, for example, or something that would be a natural kind of brush. And over here, you have a little flyout menu. So if you click on here, it shows a new menu. And you can also select different ones over here. So you can change back and forth. And if you notice here, there's a little menu that pops up if it's one that's got an erodible point. So if you notice up on the top left-hand corner, you can choose the shape of the tip of your brush. And you can cycle through here too. So if you want it to have it flat, and notice over here in the window it's turning flat, or round, or square, for example. And then I always just test one out just to see how it looks and if I like it or not. So in this case, I might be working with a point. And just like a real natural brush, as I work, it becomes a little bit duller. So you can even see in the little preview over here. And then when I want to sharpen the tip, I just press this and it will sharpen it again. And you can test this out with different kinds. So here's maybe a triangle tip. And then I can just sharpen it whenever I want it. So you can have fun with that and play with the different brushes. And it's that easy. So now I can just use this brush to write my name on the wall. So next I want to show you a little bit with the type mask tool. And over here in the toolbar, there's nested the different type tools, but underneath you see one that has a little marching ants around it. And I'm going to choose a font that's a big thick font over here, and also a very large type size. And basically what I'm going to do is create like a type of stencil. So I'll click here in the middle of my picture and write a little word. Maybe I'll just put my name. And then I can press the check mark when I'm ready, and you can see the marching ants around the text. Now I'm going to choose my brush tool again, and I can choose a nice large brush, and then I can just paint in, and it creates a selection around the letters so that I'm staying right within that range. And if you notice, if I go over it more than once, because it's pressure sensitive up here, it can make it darker or lighter, kind of imitating the natural way if you were painting a stencil on a wall. And then when I'm done, I can press Command D to deselect, and I have my little stencil. Alternatively, I can do the same thing again, and I'm going to put Nicole Was here, and I'm going to press the check mark here, and now I'm going to select the inverse, so I can actually paint right on the outside of the text. So it kind of makes a reverse stencil. And so this is kind of like a fun effect, as if you're doing some sort of street art. Or maybe I can use the bracket tools to make my brush really big so I can do a larger area at once. And once again, if I go over it more than once, since it's pressure sensitive, it will be darker and lighter in certain areas, which really kind of imitates the look as if you were maybe spray painting it on a wall. And then I can do Command D to deselect again, so I've done the reverse stencil. In this lesson, we're going to be working with clipping masks, and first we'll do a photo and then we'll move on to video. In my first image, I'm just starting with a still image of a silhouette of a girl, and I took this picture standing in the doorway with the sun behind her, which makes a nice silhouette. So this is going to make a great outline, and then we're going to put a texture behind it of a sky that will be in the shape of her silhouette. And first I'll just duplicate my background, so it's easy to fix if I make a mistake, and I'm just going to turn around the bottom layer. And next what I'm going to do is just convert this into a high contrast black and white picture. I'm going to start by adding a threshold adjustment layer, turning this into just black and white, and then I can move this slider here to kind of make it as clean as possible. And of course there's still some other background that I want to get rid of. So what I'm going to do next is add a new layer, and I'm just going to paint on some white to clean up the black pieces that I don't want. So I'm switching in my color swatches, choosing a nice big white brush for the larger areas, and then I can just very quickly go and paint over the pixels that I don't want. And then as I get in closer to do finer details, I can use the bracket tool to make my brush larger or smaller. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, because once I do the clipping mask, you'll kind of lose some of the little details won't show up. Any imperfections won't be quite as obvious. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the silhouette now. Next, what I'm going to do is flatten or merge these layers here into one because I'm going to extract the white. So I've turned off the texture, the sky layer, and the other background layer, and I'm going to do Layer, Merge Visible, and then I'm going to select just the white by doing Select, Color Range, and then I can click on the white part and press OK. I've got marching ants all around the white, and I press Delete, and I just have the black. I can do Command D to deselect, and now notice that I have the sky that I want to be knocking out with a clipping mask on the silhouette on the top, and then her on the bottom. And I now just go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and I've filled in that area right there. Now, right now it's got a transparent background. I'm just going to add a new layer, and I'll just call this blue background. And I'll just use the paint bucket tool and maybe choose a little bit darker shade of blue so that it shows up so you can have a little bit of contrast, but still, you know, matching. And then I'll just go ahead and paint bucket that in, and I'm going to just click and hold down and drag that underneath her so that I have a nice blue background that matches. And that's pretty much all I have to do for the photo. Now, moving on along, we're going to try the same kind of thing with video, and instead of using a silhouette, we're going to add some text or some shapes to it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drag well, first of all, what I'm going to do is open up my timeline window so I can see my videos down here. And I'm going to duplicate my video layer by clicking and holding and dragging onto a new layer button. And right now they're in the same group, so I want them stacked one on top of each other. But I can pull one of them up. And now that I have that layer on the top, I'm just going to scooch it all the way over so that one is playing right on top of another. And I'm going to turn the bottom one off for now. Now what I'm going to do is create just a circular mask of the jellyfish. So I'm going to go into my elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to click on that. And now I want a nice, straight, big circle here. So what you can do is press the Shift button down as you're creating the circle, and I'm going to click and I'm going to hold down and pull a nice, great big circle. So it's going to mask out just that section of the video. Okay, so now I'm I need to scooch this up so I can use the arrow tools, and I'm moving my circle into a little bit more in the middle so that it's not getting cut off on the edge. And then down on the bottom of the layers palette, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the layer mask, and it's automatically knocked out my background, so it's a circular shape in the video. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my other layer, and this time I'm going to do the same effect with some text. And I'm going to choose a nice big fat thick text, and I want to make it so that it's big. So maybe about 200, and then I'm going to click on the video to type in a word. So in this case, since this was taken at the aquarium, I'll type in the word aquarium and press the check mark. And once again, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layers and click on clipping mask, and I've got the word aquarium knocked out. Now this one is stacked on top of the other one. So once again, I can just, you know, move my aquarium word by clicking on the move tool and placing my aquarium word where I want it. And if I want, I can also choose a solid color background for that one. So I'll do a new layer. And I'm going to move this out of the group. Actually, I just dragged this one down to the bottom here. So right now, there's a transparent background, but if you want, you could add a different color layer. Since I like black, if I export it out, it will automatically just have a black background. So that's how you use clipping masks with either photo or video. Hope you enjoy it.